Alright, y'all remember when I said I wasn't going to buy a rapier, and then I bought a rapier? Well, I bought another rapier. Why did I buy another rapier? Other than I like to collect swords. Was there something wrong with the first one? No, absolutely not. That one was the Cold Steel Cavalier. I did a video on it previously. Check that out if you're interested. I'm really enjoying using that one and learning how to use it. Much more than I thought I would. So that might have been part of the decision to get this one, the Windlass Musketeer. Well, also the fact that it's the Windlass Musketeer might have had a little bit to do with it too, I admit. Going back in my history, you guys remember 1973, 1974, Three and Four Musketeers? Yeah, big inspiration for young me, and as I mentioned in previous videos, if HEMA was a thing back then, I probably would have gone down that road. And here I am in 2020, 2021, making up for lost time. But the big reason I selected this one over a couple of other choices, and yeah, there weren't a lot of other choices. I wasn't ready to invest well over $1,000 in something really high-end. I'm not quite there yet. But this one, yes, it was available, and you guys know how scarce swords have been lately on the market, and it was on sale, so that was extra tempting. And yes, there's a matching parrying dagger, which I ordered. Hasn't gotten here yet, though. To be continued. But one of the things about the Cavalier that I wasn't terribly happy with, one of the few things. If you watch that video, I demonstrate that it's got a surprisingly rigid blade. It's a fantastic thrusting weapon. But because of that, well, in order to get it to be a rigid blade, it has a really thick diamond cross-section with very steep bevels. So my best efforts, I have not managed to get an edge on the thing that will do more than slightly scratch the surface of something. And if you've seen my prior videos, you know I'm a fan of cut and thrust swords. So, yeah, looking for a rapier that will cut. So if you Google that, or just type it into the YouTube search bar up above there, you'll pretty immediately get two videos by Aikidoka. And if you haven't checked out his channel, definitely check out his channel. He's a phenomenal cutter. But he did some really, at least for me, encouraging videos cutting with a rapier, specifically this one. Now, this is a guy who could probably cut down a tree with a pool noodle. He's that good. So, didn't know if this was I'm going to be able to get the same results as he did out of this sword, but this is first impressions out of the box. I think so. I think this may meet that criteria. Let's take a look at it. Starting from the friendly end, it's all nickel-plated, really bright and shiny, and did not come slathered in goo, so that's an extra bonus. But yeah, I was a little worried about, how shiny it was, but I'm kind of digging it. It's got a nice cross pattern on the shell. It is actually ambidextrous in the guard, so yeah, there's no right or left hand bias to it. So that's nice, since I like switching hands to make sure I stay balanced here, especially with my right hand ready to check out at any moment. That one false move, it's going to make me left-handed again for a while. I was worried that the bars were going to be a bit flimsy, but they're really not. I'm really intrigued by all the wonderful shapes and things. It's an interesting balance of decorative and simplicity. Let's take a look at some things. You've got a pretty nice pommel, but the handle. Don't know if I'm going to be able to get a good shot of this. It didn't really show up in the picture for me, so I was a little surprised. Really fine wire wrapping, no Turk's head braids, top and bottom, but no sharp spots, so they finished it well. Fine wire wrapping with this kind of cross ribbing to it, which makes the grip feel even better. Now, if you look at the center of the cross guards, the quillins, there is kind of a squarish block here. It's a little sharp, but it's not bad. However, I'll give you a shot inside the shell. Like the Cavalier, there is that oval tube around the ricasso to make that really comfortable for your finger. Also, well, unlike the Cavalier, I should say, there's a full 2 inches of ricasso in here. It's more like 1 and change on the Cavalier. So yeah, there's plenty of real estate north of the crossguard. If you want to grab it up there with 2 fingers, you can. Probably won't, but yeah, you've got extra room in that shell. Now, this changes the specs on the blade a little bit for me. Get to that in a second. Let's take a quick look at the scabbard. Basic shape with the knob for the frog, or throat, I should say. Still get confused with those terms. Basic shape, just said that. I was a little worried about the blue leather, but depending on where I hold the sword, the phenomenon that I've already noticed and my daughter noticed, sometimes it doesn't look blue at all, depending on the lighting. So it's not like a bright, loud blue. It's kind of a dark Prussian blue, I guess I would call it. So it's quite attractive. It is leather, so it's not perfectly stiff, but it's stiff enough to do the job, and it fits pretty well. Yes, it does have the white powder stuff in it still, but yeah, it does the job. Okay, now you got it. This is one of my first challenges, so you've got to check this out. Describe myself as having T-Rex arms. Yeah. Sheathing and resheathing, the scabbard feels like it's in a different zip code. So, what are the specs? Cavalier has a 36.5-inch blade. This one measures 37.5 from the shell. But as I said already, there's an extra inch in here. So this is a couple of inches longer than the Cavalier, which is a very comfortable length for me. So I might cut it down by an inch, inch and a half. Might. I'm not going to make that decision immediately. This is initial impressions. I'm going to take it out. I'm going to use it for a while. See what I think about that. Because the blade... Okay. You've got an extra 3 inches of ricasso with some fullers in it. And then about 5 inches of a hex cross section. And after that it transitions into a pretty nice diamond. Obviously not as steep as the Cavalier. And it does have that kind of shiny chrome machine polish. I don't know if I'm going to keep it that way. But it's not bad. It's not terribly uneven. Doesn't have a lot of distal taper. Check this out though. See what you think of this. Cavalier really stiff, right? Okay, I can get about twice the flex out of this one. You'll notice the first, well, half of the blade doesn't really flex that much, and then it kind of flexes after that. It's not bad. It's not super floppy, but again, I'm going to have to see how it performs when I get outside. It's raining today. But the edge, it did come sharpened from the factory as, well, actually standard. I didn't have to pay extra for it. And for once, he did a reasonable job. I mean, there's a definite secondary bevel on here, but it's not super steep or ragged. It's pretty well done, and it is quite sharp whole length. I did take a couple of nice slices out of the box. It came in already. Haven't taken it outside. Haven't done anything to the edge yet, so I don't know if I will. I'm going to see how it performs, and then consider taking it to the fine sander and apple seed it or whatever, which apparently is what Aikidoka did to his. And this has a lot of potential for that. So digging it. Point of balance from the guard on mine, 1 7/8 inches. Okay. Weight, 2 pounds 11 ounces. Not too bad. Shave heavier than the other one. But balance feels pretty good. Have a good sense of where the tip is, even though it's longer than what I'm used to. So initial impressions, yeah. I'm pretty impressed. To be continued. Alright, welcome back. Not that you guys went anywhere, but I certainly did. I've spent a little bit over a week with this sword now. And I have not resharpened it at all. And it cuts, yes, pretty darn well. impressive, in fact. However, an immediate problem cropped up. Under impact, the threaded construction starts to unravel almost immediately. That pommel begins to spin off, the hilt assembly comes loose. Now, the first thing that results in is the handle slips out of line with the pommel, resulting in a weird edge. But worse, as I demonstrated, there's that collar in there around the ricasso. There's a lot of space between that collar and the ricasso. It's a separate piece just wedged in. That starts to rattle really disconcertingly. Now, I took it apart, hammered it down, made it a little bit more snug, but yeah, still rattle, rattle, rattle. So I may just remove it, deal with the bare ricasso. Otherwise, I think this would be fixed with a little bit of filler and probably a dab of Loctite. What else have I done to it? Well, that square piece of the crossguard, combining those edges with these grooves that are in there, creates what I would describe as sort of serrations. So even with a glove on, cutting into my hand. So I kind of ruined the plating job by rounding those off, but that's made it a lot more comfortable. Speaking of comfort, specs, a correction. In the previous part, I was going by what's listed on the website, which was 2 pounds 11 ounces. No, this is 3 pounds 1. Doesn't feel it really, though, until you've been working with it for a while. Again, the point of balance is really sweet. So again, until you've been extending it for a long period of time, you don't really notice that it weighs 3 pounds 1 ounce. Now, the length. Still a little uncomfortable with it because it's not what I'm used to. But I've gotten fairly accurate with it, and a test that I found online was to plant the tip of your sword on the ground, gently. Does the crossguard come up to your navel? On this sword, exactly so. So I guess that means this is exactly the right size for me. So I shouldn't mess with it, and I should just get used to it, and I am. So to be continued in terms of will I need to do any additional work on this sword? But like I said, this thing cuts just fine. Haven't had to touch the blade. Now, another thing I mentioned in part 1 was companion has since arrived, and oh my, this is going to require a separate video. So until then, I hope this has been useful information. If you're looking at this sword, if you're looking for a rapier that can cut, yeah, this one definitely can. And as always, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back for more.